Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer, bringing you some news and information. I found today what is you probably already heard about, but if you haven't, you may not be terribly surprised. A new official update FAQ from GW version 1.9. There's not a tremendous amount of new stuff here, but what is new is big, and whether or not you have agreed with End Times being a whole new normal for Warhammer, or whether you think it's a campaign that is just a fly-by-the-night like Storm of Magic, or whether you feel it's a precursor to rules that will be instituted for the new ninth that may come out, say, next year. There's been a lot of speculation, and there's really been, up until this point, plenty of logic for any of those things. Mostly, in my opinion, I've conceded in many ways that until we found something official, you really can't put a stamp, plant a flag that this is the new normal, that it really is a campaign that with rules that could be used for a new ninth. But until we saw something that said official rules or a new ninth edition big red rule book, you really can't stand by that and say that it's anything more than a campaign book. I have felt, my personal opinion, that this was a precursor for a ninth, and it seems that there's more validity to that after today's announcement, because there's not a lot of stuff that has been released with this new FAQ, but what was released, it's going to be still, I'm sure, a bit controversial, because people have very severe opinions about that. The idea of, for instance, some of the end time rules changing the game, but not for the better. People thinking that it's going to be things like Hero Hammer returning and whatnot. But I'll get into that in just one second. Some of the details of what we're seeing, and I'll start with the stuff that's less controversial. There is an FAQ, the first FAQ for Nagash, and it's very minor. It just says that in one of the campaign settings, Battle for Ruin Lamia, the ancient rubble you change the first sentence to read that the units cannot march through the area of rubble, so it's considered impassable, I guess. Not earth-shattering. The next one is Wood Elves, which just seems to be deals with something called Shroud of Despair, where the rules text changed the second sentence to say, until the start of the caster's next magic phase, the targets cannot benefit from a hold your ground or inspiring presence rule. So that's one specific thing. I'm not really sure what that is. I don't have the Wood Elves rulebook, so I'd be happy if anybody would clarify that a little further for me. And then the third one is the big one, and that is the official 1.9 version update, which says on 3 lines in magenta that, well, the first one is that Lords are now officially standard 50%. The second one is Heroes, now officially 50%. For the third tick is Army selection tables should reflect these bumps in percentages for Lords and Heroes up to 50%. And the third one says, just like we've seen in the End Times book, all wizards have access to the Lore of Undeath. So it's available, according to what it says, in the Battle Magic Lore of Undeath for Warhammer Nagash. In the digital download, it refers to both of those as well as the website. So it's basically saying, if you want the rules for this, you have to buy this. But even so, people's feelings are going to be varied here on this. A lot of people still haven't made up their minds about this, haven't delved into it. They don't want to invest in any source material that they feel is going to be here today, gone tomorrow. Whether you agree or not that End Times are standard rules, you can't deny that if GW releases an FAQ with some rules changes that are from the End Times, that's going to be a big deal. I really wish that they had released something along the lines of the Undead Legions was an official army list now, which would put that one to bed. But they neglected that. And what's really interesting is that if you look at the dates they were released, the Nagash one was updated in August. The Wood Elves 1 was updated in September. So these have been out for a while, or at least available for a while, and they just didn't release them until now. The actual FAQ, the rulebook FAQ, it was updated in September, so they didn't put these into the Black Library. And in case if I neglected to mention it, you can find these at the Black Library website, blacklibrary.com. Downloads, product, PDF, Warhammer rulebook. I'll put the link in the notes below. So my question to you is, how do you feel about that? What's your opinion? Do you think there's more? Do you think that this is kind of putting the red stamp on the fact that end times rules are now standard rules? Will you play them? Do you think with all the upcoming GTs, I mean, we've got a whole slew of GTs happening all across the country. In my region, the Sylvania one, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it to, but will that change? I doubt that will make any major changes for the upcoming GTs that are happening literally this coming weekend. But do you feel that the GTs will fall in line with this? This is an FAQ. It's an official FAQ from Games Workshop. What other feelings do you have about this? How would it change your list? If you had to change your list right now, what would the major changes be, if any? And then please feel free to share. What kind of changes do you think might happen with some of the various armies that you would be facing? What do you think is the most obvious changes that would enhance some of these lists, that would make them tougher, that you're concerned with? I know some of the things that I've been hearing are things like double Vampire Lord, double Demon Prince. Biggest one is double Demon Prince. So will there be comps to this? I'm almost certain there'll be comps at the organized tournaments. But slowly but surely, your casual games, apart from people that just want to adjust and make rules as they wish, which is everybody's right. You're playing Basement Warhammer. You play whatever rules you wish. At the local game stores, it's usually what's generally accepted. And as we have FAQs that incorporate this, more and more people will be playing this with these rules. Now, comments that I'm seeing already, which were already released when they talked about Nagash and they talked about End Times, and then when it was released with these new 50% rules, the comments are reflecting some negative opinion that is very much focused on things like, oh, Hero Hammer's back. Hero Hammer's not back. I want to instill my opinion here right away, and please certainly feel free to comment about this, but Hero Hammer, I wasn't even here for Hero Hammer, but I've heard a lot about it. I've gotten a lot of feedback about it. People have told me the reasons why Hero Hammer was so bad, and why it would hurt the game, and why it just why nobody wants to return to that. And the game is different now than what it was at the time of Hero Hammer. There are rules in place now that mitigate the absolute overpoweredness of these massive heroes and make them less board controlling, board ruling, and there are rules that no longer exist that were in place back when Hero Hammer was the norm, was the law of the land. There are things that you cannot do, and that you can't take one character and stand toe to toe with a unit with static combat res, and absolutely be sure that you're going to win, because now you have static combat res. Apparently you didn't have that then. Now you have step up. You didn't have that then. A hero could come in, higher initiative, lay waste to the first ranks of a unit, and nobody could return fire. You can't do that now. There is an opportunity for characters with, say, high strengths, because maybe they have great weapons, to still do damage to heroes. All right, you could have smaller heroes with various types of items, like, for instance, the other Trickster's Shard, that can help mitigate the defenses of these powerful heroes. There are certainly other rules, like True Line of Sight with laser beam cannons. You know how I feel about that if you don't. But still, that is a neutralizer for huge monsters and characters riding monsters, and these big giant monsters like Nagash, like the new Nurgle character that's just released. These are things that are going to check those types of characters. You have lots of war machines that can do strength 10 hits or strength 9 hits and multiple wounds. These are things that will remove these massive characters off the battlefield. You can't fly up and fly and strike down from being flying over the battlefield. There were wacky, crazy rules in the Hero Hammer days. They don't exist now. So please, feel free to insert your opinion, but use some education if you're inserting your opinion. If you know what the rules were then, and you want to say, hey, I think Hero Hammer's back and it's bad for the game, use some examples. But also, you need to be educated on what those rules were and what the rules are now and what the differences are and why they might not be as dramatic as what you might think. Because I don't think Hero Hammer is back the way it was. Matter of fact, I'm sure it isn't. Hero Hammer may be back in a certain capacity because now we're going to have more heroes, more lords. That is obvious. But is it as bad as it was? I don't think so. I think it's going to be the kind of thing where players can play their infantry armies and still do extremely well against armies that are going to have far less units on the battlefield and these superpowered heroes that still can be dealt with. So it's just going to change the list and change the meta in the way that we've all been seeing End Times having the effect that with these big characters. But that you wipe off 600 or 700 or 1,000 points in one shooting phase or one magic phase. I'm sorry, but there's a serious chance that can happen. These characters are not unbeatable. They're not absolutely indestructible. They're strong, seriously strong, but they can be dealt with. Let me know what your opinion is. Please use facts and details, though, rather than just simply opinion. If you know the details, please throw them in there, because even if you have a different opinion, I'd like to hear some of the opposing points of view. But what would you do? What are your changes? How will you adjust it? What do you think other people are going to be doing? Please feel free to discuss. And I must stress, please, constructive and polite. I really appreciate you tuning in. I look forward to the conversation. I'm sure we're going to be seeing this blow up all over the place on various forums and all over YouTube. I've got my bucket of popcorn, and I'm sitting here waiting to observe and to listen and see what that conversation goes. And have a nice day.